Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all new Jays with Jay. Right off the bat, I guess just make this very clear. This episode is mostly going to be focused on MMA related stuff. This is a big weekend for the MMA world. For the UFC, the big event coming to Boston. I'm gonna talk about that. Also, a big Bellator event. We're gonna talk about that also. We got a Canadian boy fighting for the Bellator welterweight championship, Rory McDonald. I'm sure some of you know him, some of you have seen him, some of you have definitely seen his bloody face over some picture, some poster, some highlight reel from the UFC. If you're a fight fan or you're just a fan in general, you for sure have seen this guy's bloody broken face somewhere. This is who's fighting for the belt. Not probably the best image you want to picture him by when you think of him fighting for the belt, but just remember this guy is a savage. That's why I bring up that face. That goes to show you that this guy was willing to go through all of that punishment and just to try and come out on top, even though he doesn't. But regardless, just to think about that, this guy's a savage when it comes to fighting. So anyways, that's the Bellator card. But before we get to that, I just want to bring up something. I know last week I spoke about the gyms and how people sign up at the beginning of the year and then they quit, etc., etc. And I kind of realized that I didn't really talk about, like, I guess how to some of you or to those people who are signing up for the very first time, how intimidating it could actually be to them. You walk and picture this, or from your perspective, think about the first time you ever walked into a gym. You walked in and your mindset is you picture that most of these guys are these big jack guys lifting these heavy weights, and you're kind of not sure what to expect. Because if you're a competitive individual, you're kind of going in there and you're looking around thinking, fuck, look at these guys. So kind of it's nerve-wracking a bit too. Or if you're just like a shy kind of person, you're going in there and all of a sudden you're seeing these guys or these girls in general, and they're bigger than you, and for some reason they end up staring at you or whatever reason. They just give you a little bit of eye contact. You're kind of freaked out. But anyways, it's different because, like, I understand. Are you going to someplace new, someplace you've never really, outside your comfort zone, basically, and you're trying to give this a shot? So I guess it can be nerve-wracking, and that's probably one of the reasons that they don't go back, is because you get like this negative experience. But I'm hoping that's changing. I find like we're a lot more friendlier in the gym. A lot more people speak to each other, so there's no reason anymore for anyone to start quitting. I just wanted to bring that up because I felt like it kind of makes sense in a way. If you're nervous and when you do something for the very first time, we've all been nervous when we're doing something for the very first time. We're like, oh, I don't know if like I'm doing this properly, or if I don't want these people looking at me and judging me, kind of thing. So I guess you get that when you walk into a gym and you're new and you don't really know what the hell you're doing. But if that's the case, don't give up. Just fucking keep trying. Just go. And secondly, who gives a shit if that person next to you is looking at you? So what? Worst case scenario, you grab the dumbbell and you smash him in the goddamn head with it if he acts tough. It's very simple, fuck. There's no excuses, plain and simple. But the point I'm trying to get at is, like, don't give up if your goal is to do a certain thing, right? Seems like that's always the point I keep trying to get at. Stop fucking giving up, everybody. If you didn't give up, I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Right off the bat, fuck it, let's just get straight into this weekend's event. It's plural because there are multiple events going on in the MMA world. And I guess I just want to start things off with, I guess, the simplest one, Bellator 192. This is a big event for Bellator. This is actually a huge event for Bellator because this is the first of their tournament to crown a new world heavyweight champion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Bellator does not have a heavyweight champion. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, Bellator has been around for a while. Why don't they have a heavyweight champion? Well, to be quite honest, I'm not even fucking sure. I think he retired, the other guy. They just never got around to doing it, really, because they didn't really have a heavyweight division, and they still don't have a heavyweight division. And they still don't have a heavyweight division because in order to crown their heavyweight champion, their tournament is made up by people who are not even in the heavyweight division. For example, let's take a look at what the main event is going to be. It's Chael Sonnen versus Rampage Jackson. Now, right off the bat, if you know who any of these two guys, one is a middleweight, sometimes a light heavyweight, and I'm talking Chael P. The other one over here is Rampage Jackson, who is a lightweight heavyweight fighter, sometimes a super heavyweight fighter, depending what he's doing, if he decides to train or not. So none of these guys are heavyweight fighters to begin with. And they're fighting in this tournament. This is the first round of the tournament to start things off. And they're fighting in this tournament to move on. To move on to a tournament that's made up. But let me break it down. Let me just exactly tell you. So you got Rampage and Chael kicking things off. The next fight after that is Matt Mitrione versus Roy Nelson. These are two natural heavyweights. Probably the only two are actually heavyweights in this goddamn tournament. From there, you got Fedor Emelianenko, sorry. He is the same Fedor if you've ever heard of him from Pride. Well, basically it's the same guy. He's still fighting, and he's not that good anymore because he's older, right? He's taken on Frank Mir. Yes, the same Frank Mir from the UFC, who probably has been knocked out more times than he should have. The same Frank Mir who submitted Brock Lesnar. And he's fighting in this tournament. So those are two kind of heavyweights, minus Fedor. He could be fighting at 205. And then you've got the light heavyweight champion of the world, Bellator lightweight champion of the world. The Bellator light heavyweight, Ryan Bader and, what the fudge is this guy's name? King Mo Law. So two light heavyweights right there. One's the champion, and one I guess he fights at any weight he ever wants to fight at. So this is your Bellator heavyweight tournament. So if you're wondering why is this a Bellator tournament, because they don't have any other heavyweights in the division. And the other one they do have is Czech Congo, but no one really wants to see him in this tournament unless you really just unless you just want to go to sleep. But anyways, so that's your main event. Quinton Janks, Chael Sonnen. How the fuck can you not miss this card? I don't care what time the UFC card goes on until, because there is a pay-per-view. This is the fight you should be checking out, and this is the only event you should want to check out. This matchup is going to be great. It's going to be, how do I explain this? It's going to be a war. It's going to be the fight you want to see. And pretty much exactly what I expect. Chael P is going to grab Quinton's tiny-ass legs. He's going to take him to the ground. He's going to punch him in the face for 15 minutes. And then the referee's going to raise his hand. And then Chael P is going to be the winner and moving on in the heavyweight tournament. It's as simple as that. Or Chael P takes him down and subs him in the first round. That's it. That's all. That's what you come to see. That's your main event. And who the hell doesn't want to see that? So let's get on to the match that we do want to see. Douglas Lima, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bellator welterweight champion. If you've never seen this guy, look up his highlights. He's knocked out almost every one of his opponents. His only loss came to probably Ben Askren, his last one, and the Russian guy, I don't remember his name. He's a killer, so it's not that bad to have lost to him. And he's taking on Rory Red King McDonald. This guy is Rory McDonald, ladies and gentlemen. He's in the UFC. He's in Bellator. His last fight, he took on Paul Daly, the dangerous Paul Daly striker, and he subbed him with great ease. Made that look like an easy fight. Before that, he was the same Rory McDonald who took out the current UFC champion, Tyron Woodley. Beat him. Beat Damian Maia. Went to war with Robbie Lawler. Did not beat him, though. Beat Nate Diaz. And he beat Paul Daly. And the same guy who went to a very close and controversial decision to Stephen Thompson. So, this man is a killer. It's going to be a war. These two are going to stand and bang, and we're going to see something special. This is the fight that you want to see. This is the fight that you don't want to miss. And I know this is tough because the UFC card is so fucking stacked. Well, that's a lie. The UFC card has two great main events, and it's tough to want to give up which one to watch. But at least this one's on free TV. You don't have to pay for it like the UFC. This is on the Spike channel, now currently called the Paramount Network. It's on the Paramount Network, so or Spike TV, whatever it says on your TV, for free at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Later on in the card, you got Michael Chandler, the former Bellator champion, who lost his title his last fight due to a freak accident. His leg just gave out on him, and the fight was over. He's looking to reclaim that belt, and he's looking to start that road by beating Goichi Yamaguchi. I hope that's his name. He's hoping to beat this guy. He's 22-3. Seems like he's a prospect. He's the first time I'm seeing him compete at a high level in Bellator, and it's good for him. He's getting his opportunity. Well, we're about to see what he's made of. He's 25 years old. He's young, and he's got some submissions under his belt. So this is gonna be a tough fight. It's a much tougher fight for Mike Chandler than a lot of people are going to expect. And then you got Aaron Pico on the middle card. You've got Aaron Pico and you've got Georgia. What's this guy's name again? Georgi Karikian. These are two guys to look forward to. These are two exciting fighters. One's an up-and-coming fighter, Aaron Pico. He's up-and-coming. He's currently 1-1, lost one, won one in the Bellator cage. He's looking to make a name for himself. He's looking to prove himself. He stumbled in his first fight But he's looking to do something now and make a turn, and he looked pretty impressive in his last fight. So let's see what happens. Let's give this guy the proper opponent, and let's see what he's really made of. This is his chance, and he's got a tough fight. They both got tough fights, and this is must win for them. And this is why this card's so interesting. It's got like these two top fucking main events. These are UFC caliber main events at this stage in UFC's game. Quinton Jackson, Rampage Jackson. This man has been known to knocking people out. He's got power in both hands. A great fighter. Well, he's a great he's an okay stand-up fighter. Pretty simple boxing and everything. Known for slamming people on their head and knocking them out. And he's taking on Chael Sonnen, the guy who's been talking so much shit. And he's still talking so much shit. And what makes this fight even much more interesting is that they both agreed that every takedown Chael gets on Quinton, Chael's going to get $10,000 from Quinton. So that's the bet. With every takedown Chael gets, he gets $10,000 from Quinton. I don't know how this bet makes any sense for anyone but Chael. But this is an interesting fight. Like, these two guys are going to go out there. Chael makes it seem like he's going to stand with him and knock him out. But, like, let's face facts. I haven't seen Chael knock anybody out. I've seen him knock up his wife. I haven't actually seen that, but like he hasn't knocked out anybody. And then you got Douglas Lima and Roy McDonald. This is a stand-up dream. And like it could be a nightmare. This is one of those fights, and this is one of those cards where I'm trying to sell you and tell you this could be a great card, but on paper it looks fantastic. But I've seen Bellator shit the bed with this multiple times where every fight ends up going to decision. And it's just not a good decision. So that could happen too. I bet it's tough to hype them up. They're a hit and miss, Bellator. But this is, on paper, a fantastic card because you got Douglas Lima and Roy McDonald. This is, in some retrospects, a huge matchup in the welterweight division. This is like a matchup between, if in the UFC, it'd be the number 4 and number 2 guy. So it's a huge matchup if you're looking at it from that perspective. And Roy McDonald's looking to capture a belt in his second fight in Bellator. And against a tough opponent in Douglas Lima. Who's going to be there every step of the way. Lima's got incredible jiu-jitsu. He's a fantastic and smart stand-up fighter, in and out of the pocket. He's not always looking to trade and swing and be wild. If he has to, he will, but that's not him anymore. And you got Roy McDonald, who's practically a tacticianer. He could break you apart. He could limb for limb, like fucking just do what he wants. If he wants a slow matchup, he'll just pick his pace, in, out, pick you apart, take it down, and frustrate you, because you won't be able to hit him. So who knows how this fight could go, and if we get to the point where we know we're going to get to the point, because even what I've just said makes it sound boring, but once they get to that and they realize their skills are just evenly matched, that's when the magic happens and you get a fight where it's just a war. Two guys just trying to go for it. And that's what I think we're going to get out of Lima and Roy McDonald. It's going to start out a little slow, but in the later rounds, which it will make it to the later rounds, I promise you that. It'll be a war. Same goes with Mike Chandler and Gotse Yamuchi. Sorry. I'm just going to call Mike Chandler and Gotse. This is an interesting matchup. Chandler needs this win. Chandler gets this another loss on his record, and Chandler's had some questionable and weird losses in his career. One where like he waved his hand in the air, saying like he quit. No one understands what the hell happened. And then the last one where he had that injury mid-fight. So Chandler's had some like very weird loss. 2 big losses. And Gotse needs this fight. He's 22-3. He gets this win. He moves on. He probably jumps up ahead of Chandler and gets a title shot. Why not? You beat the former champ and you beat him in convincing fashion. Who's going to argue you don't deserve it? So that's why it's a very interesting matchup. Even Aaron Pico, this is it. 1-1, get a loss. It's 1-2. Now puts you in a weird position. Maybe you just weren't ready for the big leagues. So he's got to prove it. He's going to have to come out hard, and he's fighting a tough guy. It was 12-3. Shane Crutchin, the odds makers better fucking have Shane Crutchin as a huge favorite. If he's not, I guarantee you I'm going to fucking smash a shit ton of money on him. With a 12-3 record versus a 1-1 Aaron Pico. Let's do the math for a second. I'm going with Shane Crutchin as someone who has more experience. I don't care if he fought his grandmother. At least he has more experience. And Georgie Karakian, he's got a huge fight. Karakanen, he's fighting a guy named Henry Corrales. It's the battle of which name can't I say properly. So 14-3 versus 27-7-1 for Georgia. He's got to do it. He's basically been that cave guy. Not that cave guy. He's like that mid-level card guy. You fight him, you beat him, that means you kind of deserve it. Like he's good, but he's just not good enough. So he's got to stop being the bridesmaid and start being the goddamn bride and start winning this fight. He's got to win this fight. If he wins this fight, he's gonna have like another big name fight. Gets that, title shot. There's no reason why not. So this is for him. He's got to do it. And that's Bellator. And this is a fight. Look, first of all, it's free. It's in California. It's gonna be a hot crowd. Inglewood. It's in Rampage's backyard. No, it's probably not. But it's in Inglewood, California. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's live and free. And it's on fucking Spike TV or the Paramount Network. I don't see why no one's wouldn't want to check this out. Whet their appetite before we get to the big boys. And by the big boys, I'm talking about this big fight.
The baddest man on the planet. The one who can beat any man on earth in a fight.
That is one intimidating man.
The UFC World Heavyweight Champion Stipe Miocic earned the baddest man moniker by annihilating opponents with ruthless efficiency.
Too many years in the zone, too many years to have built what I own, and many dumb fools try to take what I've grown.
But Miocic's reign is under siege by a terrifying new challenger.
Yes, he's the future.
Francis Ngannou, a mountain of destructive potential and shocking power.
Whoa, was right because we got two huge main events on this event. If I said the Bellator card was stacked top to bottom with named fighters such as Mike Chandler, Roy McDonald, Douglas Lima, Chael Sonnen, and Rampage Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, this is the card where you've got the two top heavyweight division fighters, and I'm talking the light heavyweight and the heavyweight division, all in one night and one card for both titles. Both titles are on the line and both fighters are facing champions. Let me say, both champions are facing some of the toughest challengers they will face to date. Ladies and gentlemen, this card from top to bottom, it's pretty mediocre, but when you get to the fights as to why you're watching this event, it's worth it at the end of the day. You've got two title fights right off the bat. Let's kick things off. You've got Stipe Miocic, or Miocic, however you want to say it, versus Francis Ngannou. Now, yes, it's the same Francis Ngannou I was probably talking about maybe 4 or 5 podcasts ago when he was fighting Alistair Overeem. This is the same Francis Ngannou who murdered Francis Overeem, who murdered Alistair Overeem. Yeah, this is the same guy that I broke down when he hit him with that uppercut. He was out. Alistair Overeem was out, and he's making a quick turnaround to be fighting January 20th, live on pay-per-view as of 10 p.m. Eastern Time. They're fighting on pay-per-view, and they're fighting in Boston. They're fighting in a place where neither of them are really too comfortable, and no one has hometown advantage. Francis is from France, Stipe from Cleveland, Ohio. He defended his belt, I believe, in Cleveland, Ohio last. Who did he fight last? No, I apologize. He fought Dallas, Texas against Junior Dos Santos May 13th. So Stipe hasn't been as active as he should have been for a champion. His last fight was May 13th. Since then, he's battled with some injuries and battled with also some contract negotiations. He feels he's the champion. He deserves to be getting paid like a champion. And let's face facts, he does. He deserves to be bringing in a lot of money. He is the heavyweight champion. He is the champion of a division which is the most prestigious division in all of sports. With it, whether it's boxing, whether it's martial arts, or whether it be pro wrestling, whether it be anything in general. When you hear heavyweights, you're thinking of people who are going to get knocked out. You're thinking of slugfest, bad brawls. You're thinking of Mike Tyson. You're thinking of Lennox Lewis. You're thinking of Vladimir Klitschko. You're not thinking of Anthony Joshua. So this is a huge main event. This is a guy in Francis Ngannou who's coming off back to back. That's a lot of back-to-back wins. And not just wins. He's knocked and finished each and every single one of his opponents with the exception of one. And the one that he did not finish is the one he lost to by unanimous decision back in December of 2013. So for the last 4 to 5 years, however you want to look at it, he has been undefeated. He's defeated the likes of Alistair Overeem in his last fight. Not just defeated, he's knocked unconscious Alistair Overeem. He knocked the bricks off of Andrei Arlovsky, who at this point in his career is probably at the tail end, and the same can also be said for Alistair Overeem. How much of their chins remained over the years of punishment that they've taken. But he's also finished Anthony Hamilton by Kimura submission, showing off his submission in his ground game. And he's been on a tear other than that. And he's coming in and he's fighting a tough opponent in Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight champion, the very man who beat drawing a blank, Fabricio Verdum in Brazil and in Fabricio's hometown. The same man who beat Mark Hunt, who literally beat the living hell out of Mark Hunt for 5 rounds until the referee stopped it. He also beat Andrei Arlovsky, he beat Fabricio Verdum, he beat Alistair Overeem, and he regained his second loss ever to Junior Dos Santos when he beat him in the rubber match, not the rubber match, in the sequel, in the second fight. So this man has just been on a tear, and since he's been in the UFC, he's fought nothing but the toughest of toughest competitions. And he's fought the likes of Stefan Struve, Roy Nelson, Gabriel Gonzaga, Fabio Maladano, Mark Hunt, Junior Dos Santos, Andrei Arlovsky, Fabricio Verdum, and Alistair Overeem. And that's just a who's who of the heavyweight division. These are guys who you've seen in the top and you've seen fight for the belt over the last couple of years, and they've been from 1 to 10, the top-ranked fighters. And he's been on a tear also. Like I said, his sole loss came to a decision to Junior Dos Santos in the main event back in December 2014. Some can question that decision. Some people can think that the Junior walked away with the decision. Some think that Stipe won, but at the end of the day, the fight is what happened, and it was a classic fight. It was a battle, and it was a brawl. And now you're getting an incredible heavyweight matchup between two of the most toughest men you will ever see on the face of the planet. These two guys are going to stand and they're going to bang and they are going to bring you a show that you've never seen before. And if this fight makes it even out of the third round or makes it to the third round, I would be shocked. I would be shocked as hell. I'm not saying bet the house on a finish, on a 1.5 round finish. I'm saying there's a strong possibility, and if you got some money to spare, under 1.5, it is worth it for these two big guys. Neither of these men have really made it out of the second round. Stipe's last fight, his last 4 fights have ended in the first round, each by finish. He's finished each of his opponents in the 5th round, and the only one that came by a 5th round stoppage was the Mark Hunt or 5th round decision to Junior Dos Santos. But other than that, his last 4 fights, he's just been murking people. And Francis, the same can be said. His last 4 fights have also been finishes in the first round. So this fight, under 1.5, there's 2 big heavy punchers. Either someone's getting knocked out, or Stipe could take him down and knock him out on the ground. This is a fight where anything's truly possible, but this is also a fight where if you've got to pick between the free TV Chael P. Sonnen versus Rampage Jackson or Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou in the main event for the heavyweight title, and you will have the option and you're watching the pay-per-view, I'm saying go for the pay-per-view. I'm saying go for this big match. This is the big money fight. This is the fight that people want to see, and this is the fight and this is also the card where we can continue crowning new champions. With the exception of Max Holloway, we can be and Cyborg. I mean, we could be crowning 2 new champions on this event, and it's very possible because both fighters are very, very dangerous. Both challengers are very, very dangerous. If I'm gonna have to pick in this main event between Stipe and Francis, this truly is a tough one. This is a toss-up right now. Francis has got the power. Stipe has also the power. Stipe likes to get hit. Francis is about to get tested as tough as he can be. I'm a big fan of Stipe. So just by being biased, I'm going to have to pick Stipe on this one. He's going to defend his belt. He's going to be the first ever person to go past 2 title defenses. No one's ever done it. Surprisingly, Brock Lesnar has the record at 2 title defenses, and probably Cain Velasquez at 2 title defenses. So Stipe has the chance to break that record. Imagine that, the heavyweight division. No one in the last 10 years has defended the belt more than twice. That is ridiculous. So Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, I'm going to have to go with Stipe. I'm going to say Stipe by finish. Stipe by... He's going to get hit, but he's going to take him down, and he's going to beat him up. I'm saying Stipe, but who knows? This is anyone's fight. This is anyone's pick 'em fight. If Stipe is a dog, I would say, hell yeah, put some money on Stipe. It's worth it. In my honest opinion, both should be even, if that's the case. Both should be even, because anything can possible. They both got the power. The only thing leaning on Stipe's favor is the fact that he's champion. And his wrestling is pretty good. moving on to the co-main event, we've got the light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. It's tough to say the light heavyweight champion because probably the last time anyone's seen Daniel fight, he was getting his head kicked in by John Jones. And that was in July of 29th of 2017. Was the last time we ever saw Daniel Cormier fight. Before that fight, he was on a 4-fight win streak. Beat Anthony Johnson twice, beat Alexander Gustafsson in a tough fight, and he beat Anderson Silva in a pretty one-sided fight where he just beat him up, really. It's funny. Both of Daniel Cormier's wins have come in fights where he technically never beat the official light heavyweight champion. John Jones, the first time he didn't beat him, he lost to John Jones the first time. And then he ended up winning the belt by beating Anthony Johnson for the vacant title due to the fact that John Jones had been arrested at the time. And in this case, John Jones knocked him out by a head kick in the third round back in July 29th for UFC 214. And John Jones, once again, he failed the drug test. He tested positive, and Cormier was reinstated as the champion. So Cormier never really officially gained this belt by defeating anyone. So you could say this is the fight. This is the crown of champion right now. You got Daniel Cormier. He's taking on Volkan Ozdemir, and Volkan's no pushover. Volkan is a tough fighter. He is coming in here with a 15-1 record. He has finished each and every single one of his fights. That is a lie. He has finished 11 of his fights by knockout, 1 by submission, and he has gone the distance only 3 times. Within the UFC, each and every single one of his fights have ended. Once again, that is a lie. He beat OSP by decision, split decision actually. I don't really remember that fight. He beat Jimmy Manuwa on the same card that Daniel Cormier lost to John Jones. He finished Jimmy Manuwa in 42 seconds. He finished Misha Serkinov in 28 seconds in May of 2017. And he went to decision against OSP in February. This is a tough fighter. This is a fight where we're going to see can Volkan Ozdemir stop Daniel Cormier's takedowns? That's really what it is at the end of the day. Can he stop his takedowns? Because if he can, it's going to be a long night for Volkan. He's going to have to stand there. He's going to have to stop everything. He's going to have to use his hands, and he's going to have to show his power and his strength and his youth. Volkan is only 28 years old. He's young, and he's got a lot of room for improvement. Daniel Cormier, he's 38. There's a 10-year gap here, and Daniel's coming at the end of his career, and he's even said it that this is probably going to be his last year competing in mixed martial arts. For Daniel Cormier, this is a fight that's going to cement his legacy. He's got to beat Volkan. He loses. He basically has lost 2 straight fights, and if he gets knocked out, this is the second time he gets knocked out in 2 straight fights also. Sorry. Volkan, is very, very dangerous fighter. A stand-up, probably some of the best stand-up you'll see in the light heavyweight division. I apologize. Probably some of the best stand-up you'll see in the light heavyweight division. Daniel Cormier, we all know his stand-up. It's there, but it's not at Volkan's level. It's his wrestling that really gets him there. So we're going to see a classic striker versus grappler matchup, and who's going to take it and who wants it more. How good is Volkan's grappling? How good is Cormier's ability to take him down now that he's 38 years old? How was Cormier's weight cut? Was it difficult? Is Cormier's old age going to play a factor in this? Is Volkan's youth going to play a factor in this? Is he going to catch him because he's so fast, or is he going to fail because his inexperience costs him the win? Is he going to get too excited and try and go for the finish and then get caught with a takedown? These are questions that are all very possible. And this is what we're going to find out this Saturday, live and only on pay-per-view at 10 p.m. Eastern Time from Boston, Mass. So, if it's going to come down to who I'm going to pick, I'm honestly going to have to say, and this is going to be surprising, but I'm going to say we're going to have a new champ. The 28-year-old Volkan Ozdemir, he's going to surprise and shock the world. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Volkan is the betting favorite at this point. Just due to his youth, like I said, and his power, and Cormier, we've seen him get rocked. We've seen him fight some tough guys. We've seen him against Seen him against Gustafsson, and Gustafsson took him. The stand-up battle was tough for him. So this is going to be one of those things where we're going to find out how much does Cormier have left in the tank, how much has the John Jones fight affected him. Just where is he overall? This is something that's going to be incredible to watch. And now even looking at the odds, Cormier is a pretty big favorite. So Volkan is worth looking at. Volkan is honestly a highly touted prospect. I think regardless, we're in for a fun fight. Like I said, this is going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle of grappling, where one guy's got to get up and try and finish the fight. Like, it could be a stand-up war, a stand-up battle where Volkan just catches him. Do I think this is going to decision? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Either someone's getting tired and subbed, or someone's getting knocked out. And at the end of the day, like I said, the pick is on Volkan for me. So I'm thinking we're gonna have one new champ and one guy's retaining that belt. That's what I'm looking at. The rest of this card outside of the two main title fights, the two big title fights, probably the only two reasons you're watching. I would say check out the Thomas Almeida Rob Font fight. For those who don't know who Thomas Almeida is, he is an elite level striker. He has 22 wins, 2 losses, 17 knockouts, 3 wins by submission, and 2 wins by decision. His last fight came to a unanimous decision loss to Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy is probably one of the top tier fighters in the division. So it's not a loss that you expect. It's not a loss that's really frowned upon, but at the same time, it's one of those losses you got to win if you want to move up in the division. His second loss comes at the hands of Cody Garbrandt, the former bantamweight champion. He was knocked out by him. Before that loss to Cody Garbrandt, he was on a tear of 20 wins and 0 losses. Are we going to see that guy? Are we going to see the old Thomas Almeida come out here and put on some incredible performances and stop his opponent? Or are we going to see the Thomas Almeida who's lost those last 2 fights? He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. This is it. This is a big test. He's fighting Rob Font, who is also no slouch. Rob Font, 14 wins, 3 losses, 6 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 4 decisions. Rob Font's coming off a loss to Pedro Munoz. So they're both coming off losses. They're both looking for a win. They're both looking to turn their careers around. His second loss in the UFC came at the hands of John Lineker. Lineker is a machine. Anyone who fights Lineker, you're in for a war. So these are not losses that really... These are losses that you should win. These are losses that if you want to move on, you got just the same way with Thomas Almeida, you got to move up. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight in the night fight. This is going to be 2 guys who are going to stand and bang and if necessary, they'll take it to the ground, but they are going to put on a performance. They're going to put on a show that's worthy of kicking off the pay-per-view. And I jumped to the first fight on the card because for the two middle fights, there's even no point covering them. They're not even. I guarantee you, one's going to be really garbage, and the other one could be interesting, but one will most likely be garbage. There's a good chance, but Thomas Almeida, Rob Font, they're gonna have a fun fight. They're gonna put on a performance, and they're gonna kick off the show in fashion that they deserve to kick the show off. Outside of this, the only other fight that I would say you really need to be looking forward to is Dustin Ortiz versus Alexander Ponteo. And this fight's taking place on the preliminary card. For those in America, which there's nobody in America that's listening to this, Fox Sports 1. For those over in Canada, TSN. TSN as of 8 p.m. This fight should be taking place around... Looking at this, 8 p.m. it starts, 8:30. 8:30, this fight should be taking place, and this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be a good scrap between 2 guys. Dustin Ortiz, he's been lately training out of Sherbatov MMA right here in Montreal, right here in Laval, Quebec, He's coming off a win, a KO, against Hector Sandoval. He's coming also off a loss against Brandon Moreno, and he lost to a couple of guys before that. His record is... It's tough. He's got 17 wins, 7 losses, 7 knockouts, 4 decisions, 4 submissions, and 6 decisions. He's lost 1 by submission and 6 by decision. So this is Dustin Ortiz's chance. You know this is your chance. You got to win, or you're looking at a situation where one more fight you're probably out. And here we got him coming in against a guy like Alexander Ponteo, who's practically undefeated. And this guy has a total of 18 wins. 6 by knockout, 7 by submission, and 5 decisions, 2 losses, both coming at the hands of a decision. Since he's been in the UFC, he's 2-0. He's beaten Neil Siri, no slouch. He's beaten Eric Shelton, also no slouch. He's beaten a guy named Demasio Page on the Legacy fights, also no slouch. So this is a fight to watch, and this is going to be a fun fight. This is going to be a good back and forth scrap. This is a fight that can go anywhere and can always be exciting at the same time. If I'm going to have to pick someone, I'm going to think I'm going to have to go ahead and... Fuck, man, this is a tough one. Panteo's only 27. He's very young in this game. He's no bum, and so is Dustin Ortiz. He's 29, but for Dustin Ortiz, he's got to be thinking, like, listen, you want to turn your career around, you got to start doing it now because you've got a couple of losses spread out on your record, and Bellator MMA may not seem too far away. If I'm going to have to pick someone to win this fight, if I'm going to have to suggest someone, I'm going to have to go with flip a coin and see what happens, because at the end of the day, I don't know who's winning this fight. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be worth checking out. But don't ask me on who's going to win this. I'll just tell you one thing. This is probably going decision. So if you could bet the over 2.5 or whatever the over-under is, over 2.5 or over anything that it is, that's my honest opinion. These two are just they're gonna drag this fight out. But it's gonna be a fun fight that they're gonna drag out. None of them's gonna want to quit. They're all gonna be out there to prove a point. So other than the Dustin Ortiz, Alexander Panteo, Thomas Almeida, Rob Font, Daniel Cormier, Volkan Ozdemir, Stipe Miocic, and Francis Ngannou, if that was your main card, I'd say you're in for a hell of a fight. But because these fights are all spread out throughout the card, you're going to have to pick and choose when to go in and when to go out. And that is why I say during this time with live and free on Spike TV, now the Paramount Network, you can be also checking out Bellator MMA and watching some incredible and some good fights with some up-and-coming guys and some also legendary guys. Some guys who will probably be in a Hall of Fame somewhere. So why not check them both out? If you have the chance, go back and forth. If you're not watching it live and on pay-per-view, paying for it, and you're streaming it instead, you have no reason in the world not to watch both at the same time. Like, absolutely no reason. That's honestly all I can really touch upon. These two big events, these two massive events, these two events taking place on the same day, not at the same time, but January 20th, live and free on Spike TV / the Paramount Network as of 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Bellator 192, Chael Sonnen versus Rampage Jackson. Douglas Lima versus Rory McDonald for the welterweight championship. And Mike Chandler and Aaron Pico. This is the card. It's live and free on Spike. And then head over to pay-per-view or to your box or to wherever the hell you watch it at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Or 8 p.m. if you choose to watch the Dustin Ortiz Alexander Panteo fight. But as of 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Thomas Almeida, Rob Font kick it off. And then you can come back, skip the next two fights, check out Bellator, and then come back as of 11:30 or 11 p.m. for Daniel Cormier, Volkan Ozdemir for the light heavyweight championship of the world. And then, after we get past that fight, which is huge and just could have been a main event on its own, we get to the big fight. The big boys, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting the heavyweight championship of the world. Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou live, and this probably is going on at midnight, this fight. Unless everyone's getting knocked out and we're having an early card. At midnight, tune in. It may coincide with the Bellator main event. If it doesn't, fantastic, perfect. You're headed straight into another big fight, a big money fight, and you're going to close out the night with a heavyweight fight, and one that will not disappoint. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on today's podcast. That is a wrap on just on general. I said it was going to be solely focused on MMA. If you're not an MMA fan, I apologize. If you are an MMA fan, great. If you're interested in checking out MMA fights and you're just that guy who's a casual viewer, this is the night to be a casual viewer. Live and free on Spike, Paramount Network, Bellator. They got some great fights. Or stick with the UFC. You got two of the biggest matchups in the world, the heavyweight and the light heavyweight championship fight. These are two fights that cannot disappoint. These are must-see. And if you are a casual fan, I would suggest watching this to the casual fan. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed it, like, share, follow, spread the cheer. Let's have some fun with this. This is going to be a big year, 2018. We got some big things in the tank. We got some big things in the tube. I can't wait to bring it all together and to show all of you what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Have some fun. I'll see you next week. We'll talk about the fights next week. If they're disappointment, well, I'll be disappointed next week. If they're fantastic, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Good night.